everyone, and thank you for coming to Brewster Theater Company's Giving Tuesday events. Thank you all for coming to play with us. It's a great Tuesday night. We have a pretty full house here, so we expect a lot of laughs, maybe a little bit of crying, but we have 6 great storytellers, a couple of newbies, so we're going to encourage them on today, but I'm not going to tell you who they are. It's always a fantastic night. This is our Giving Tuesday event, so first have to give thanks to our sponsors, as always. Hudson Valley Credit Union, who gave us a terrific grant this year, Robert Maylard Law, and the Karina Rush Foundation. We couldn't do it without you, and of course we couldn't do it without all of you. So just a little bit of fun facts for Brewster Theater Company 2022. We have attracted, or will attract after the holiday show, over 1,500 patrons. We keep busy anywhere between 150 to 200 actors during the course of all our shows throughout the year. That's actors, stagehands, tech people. So it is really a great adult community, and we want to really bring young people in. So if you're young out there, please come play with us. There's so many great roles in Brewster Theater Company coming up. But it's an absolutely astounding place for community, coming together, theater, the arts, and that's why we're all here. So I can't thank you all enough for contributing this year and coming to events and being part of our show. We're excited about it. So Giving Tuesday, let me just tell you, if you're not familiar with it, if you're out there watching us, we do this because we basically look for donations. So many of you here have given donations. Thank you. You can give donations throughout the year. We are a 501c3 with an all-volunteer board, and we have many board members here. Christopher Gladysz, Judy Brewster, Stacy Dumont, myself. We all work very hard. Mario Riccabone behind the camera. See, I gotta look at the camera. And there are just so many people that really work hard to make, to make the magic happen. So we really look forward to you coming. We have a outstanding 2023 season coming up, which maybe I'll defer to our artistic director a little bit later to talk about, maybe not. But I think we're ready to hear stories, are we? And the first one up is nothing other than the fabulous Chris Gillespie with The Truth About Secret Santa.
Okay, good evening, folks. Okay, so to start the story, I have to give you a little bit of an introduction. So some time ago, I came across this theory that when we sing songs or we listen to songs, we don't hear the words. The words are forgotten. And in this theory, the example that they used was row, row, row your boat, which starts out with the row, row, row your boat. Then another group comes in with a row, row, row your boat. And then another group comes in with a row, row, row your boat. And then you get to the second line, which tells you how they're supposed to be rowing, which is gently down the stream. So we're not listening to the words, because if you were going gently down the stream, it'd be a different song altogether. But we're going hell-bent for leather, just getting that row, row, rowing going. And then right after that, you have merrily, 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 life is but a dream. But we don't sing it that way at all. Life is but a dream. It's very ethereal, very existential is what it is. So after that, I started to think to myself, I gotta listen to the words to songs. And one of the first ones that came to mind was My Way, which, okay, Frank Sinatra owns. Okay, but Elvis does a great Elvisation of the song. Very well done. But for my money, the guy that really caught what the song was about was Sid Vicious, late of the Sex Pistols, and late in general, okay? So he practically just spit out the words, which when you think about it, that's what the song is about. It's really, ah! And I said to myself, you know, okay, Frank Sinatra, it's his song, but Sid Vicious really knew what he was doing with it, you know. So now, to get to Christmas, okay. Years ago, there was this radio thing where they had you pick 5 or 10 albums that you would take with you on a deserted aisle, which I always thought was funny because if you're stranded on a deserted aisle, you don't have a phonograph or a CD player, and if you did, you don't have the electricity to use the damn thing. So what good was it? You're just looking at the album cover. But I always picked a Christmas album. And the Christmas album I always picked was A Christmas Gift for You from Phil Spector, which he gave you the Phil Spector treatment, which was the wall of sound, okay? Years later, the Phil Spector treatment evolved where you'd go out on a date with Phil, you'd go back to his house, he'd murder you, then he'd be put on trial and he would wear a different wig every day to the trial in the hopes that the jury would turn around and acquit him thinking, this guy must be a lawyer or something because he can't be on trial. But he actually was convicted. But I digress, okay? That album has Bobby Sox and the Blue Jeans, the Crystals, the Ronettes, Darlene Love, who does a terrific job on White Christmas. I mean, okay, it's the Bingles song. Everybody knows that. But she really does a lovely version. Frosty the Snowman, Sleigh Ride, Winter Wonderland. My favorite, Christmas Baby, Please Come Home. Love that song. But there were 2 songs on that album that I remember listening to and saying, did I actually listen to these songs before? And those 2 songs are I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus by the Crystals, and Santa Claus is Coming to Town by the Ronettes, okay? And separately, both songs get you to thinking. But when you put them crossing over each other, it's like you're looking at years of therapy right here, okay? Because here we go. Okay, I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus. Underneath the mistletoe last night, she didn't see me creep down the stairs to have a peep. She thought that I was still upstairs, tucked in my bedroom fast asleep. Then I saw Mommy tickle Santa Claus underneath his beard so snowy white. Oh, what a laugh it would have been if Daddy had only seen Mommy kissing Santa Claus last night. Whoa! Stop right there. Here's a child watching the breaking up of his home and assuming his father will find it humorous. And if Santa is in such a tight schedule, where is he finding time for affairs with married women? I'm just asking the question here. Then you go on to Santa Claus is Coming to Town. The lyricist, by the way, is Haven Gillespie. I don't think we're related. But obviously, he comes from a side of the family that absolutely loathes children, abhors them, because it's you better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. Stop right there. I gotta watch out? No crying, no pouting? Why not just chain me to the stove, okay? What do I have left? I have nothing. As a youth, all I had was crying and pouting. That was it. He's making a list. He's checking it twice. He's going to find out who's naughty or nice. He's checking it twice in between affairs with married women. It took me years to find out that being naughty was actually quite nice. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. Of course, if this creepy guy is watching you sleep, he's going to know when you're awake. That's a given. So this is the year things are going to be different. My letter to Santa opens with, I have photos of you kissing my mother, which I'm prepared to have delivered to Mrs. Claus
When I was 6, my sister Susie asked me to play a middle C on the piano because she was practicing something. And I hummed the C, and I told her, I don't need the piano. And she was a musician, and she looked at me, and she tested it out, and she said, you have perfect pitch. And my grandmother thought I was just being braggy. She didn't believe me. But Susie believed me, and thus I became in charge of providing starting pitches everywhere. School concerts, sing-alongs, and of course, when we were out, caroling. Let me walk you through a caroling party. The night before, my mom looked like she was excited, but she had the party-tude. Anybody know what this party-tude is? This is when the emotions run high, right? She's making lists frantically. She's guests, food. Do we have enough sheet music? Is there enough drinks, booze? And then we would clean the house. And then everyone would get pissed off at each other. And then, ding dong, hi everybody, come on in, the fun begins. The caroling parties would not be complete though without the grog. Mom and my Aunt Merle would pull out a huge lobster pot and I would fill it up with cider, cinnamon, and cloves and rum and some other stuff that they won't even tell me what it is. Anyway, everyone would take some grog and, they would make a little companion pot, which was supposed to be for the kids, me. My sisters would always fill me up with the other one. I don't even know who drank that other one. Anyway, when everybody arrived, they would grab their caroling book, a mug of grog, and then Mom would run us through the vocal warm-ups. Because the sopranos, she was one, could not sing the high notes out in the cold unless we were warm, fully warmed up. So everyone warmed up. And then off we would go, walking through the neighborhood, and I would knock on the doors, and we would belt out the songs, and then from house to house, we would do, we wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas. And then, as long as I was the youngest, I got to do all the doors. But later on, as I grew up, the next generation took over the door. After we'd come back in, we'd eat like crazy, and then we would drink more grog, and then we would get ready for the next big event, which was the Hallelujah Chorus. So, this was a huge moment, and Mom could play the hell out of it. Everyone was in full voice, and my proud little kid self would sing the alto part year after year. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Yeah, that's the alto part. I developed a real love for that music and a decent belt. After that, Mom would play for anyone who wanted to sing. Holiday songs or not, until the wee hours of the morning. And then she would play The Party's Over. And then my dad would take out the vacuum. Because I was raised on Christmas music, it never really dawned on me that it wasn't my music. It was the music of family, of cold winter nights, of grog, of laughter, of smoky rooms. But you see, I'm Jewish. And we were but a handful of Jews in the community. Yes. My mom told me that a friend said to her, it took singing in a Jewish home to get me into the true spirit of Christmas. I am very grateful for those memories. We don't have those parties anymore. We do sing our a cappella songs every year when we get together. And I am very grateful for that time. Ding, dong, ding, dong. Alto power.
pretty much doing everything wrong tonight. First of all, I'm eating something that is very drippy, and I've dripped on myself, so I'm happy to have a stand. I did not battle test these shoes, which every time I walk, you can hear them, so forgive me. Thank you, Judy. That was a lot of fun. Before we go on to our next person, I am going to call up Artistic Director Extraordinaire, Christopher Gladysz, to say a few words about our 2023 season. And we need a lot of people to audition.
Well, good evening. I'm so glad to see everyone here, and thank you for joining us out there. Our 2023 season we're very excited about. The first show we're doing, which will be in January, is by Larry Eckerly. It's called 3 Turns at the Gun Hill Diner. And it's the first show that is sprung out of our Playwright Festival. So that'll be the first show this season. The second show up will be Inherit the Wind. And that's a classic that everyone knows. It will be in late February, early March. In May, they will be doing the musical comedy Murders of 1940. It's not a musical, it is a comedy and a murder mystery. I'm directing that one, that's why I'm pointing that part out. Yes, thank you. Our summer musical will be Guys and Dolls, and that'll be directed by Stacy Dumont, hiding over there in the back. In the fall, we will do our 3rd annual Playwright Festival. So that is when we ask you to submit one-act plays. This past year, we had 78 submissions, which we were able to get down to 9, which we just performed recently. So I think April is when we start asking for those online. So if you're interested and you're a budding playwright, please submit, and maybe you'll see your play on stage in September. At the end of October, we will be doing the play Prelude to a Kiss, which will be directed by Judy Brewster, who you just heard tell her story. And the final show of the season will be All Is Calm, The Truce of 1914, which is a musical event that takes place on Christmas Day during World War I, and directed by Mario Riccoboni. And it's a very fascinating piece. So that is our 2023 season. I hope you all come out and audition, see the shows, join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gladysz. And again, it is Giving Tuesday, so if you're out there and you want to make a small donation of any kind, it is appreciated. These shows do cost us a lot of money to put on, and we all do it out of love. Sometimes, like, me and Steve don't love each other as much as we should, but that's still worth a donation, I think. Don't you think? Okay. I get the first shot. Okay. Next up with Roma's recipes is Yelena Bregman.
To be honest, I was never really crazy about the holidays. For me, they were kind of confusing growing up. See, I'm Jewish with Eastern European roots, and then I married a Catholic, and growing up, whenever we did celebrate the holidays, it was always this mishmash of traditions. We didn't quite follow the religious protocols, and we would just get together, have dinner, and enjoy each other's company. But there was one reason that the holidays were really important to me. The holidays meant that I got to sing and dance in the kitchen with my grandpa Roman. The very early morning of New Year's Eve, or Novy God, in Russian, that's our most important holiday, I would be woken up by the most incredible aromas of garlic and onion and bone marrow stewing away in the pot. He was busy making his famous holiday chaladiets. And what that is a traditional Russian bone marrow dish. And it starts with a very large stock pot and you take bone marrows, onions, garlic, tons of fresh black peppercorn, bay leaves. You fill the whole thing with water, you put it on the stove, and you let it simmer for the whole day. And what you end up with is the most luscious golden broth that you can possibly imagine. It is so rich. When you drink it, it's like drinking a hug. And we had a special tradition that was passed down from generation. My mom, when she and her sister were young, growing up back in Tashkent, whenever my grandpa would make this, the best part was separating the meat off of the bones, and then you would take the bone and just like suck the juice out of each little bone marrow. That was really the best part. So when I learned about that, I said that that's gonna be my new job. And every time he would make this, I would come join him. So after the broth was done, he would get porcelain dishes, he would put the bits of the meat at the bottom, and then you ladle the golden broth on top and garnish with a hard-boiled egg, tons of fresh garlic and fresh cracked pepper, and then you let it sit overnight or in the fridge until it comes into the most savory gelatin. And I know that sounds weird if you've never tried it, but trust me, it's delicious. It's been 9 years since my grandpa has been with us for the holidays. He was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, and we knew our time together was going to be limited, but we decided that we were going to make the most out of every minute that we had left together. And he was going to teach me everything he knew about cooking and traditions to make sure that not only that his memory was going to live on, but the culture and the love that each one of those recipes holds would continue. One day he was teaching me how to make his famous plof, which is a rice dish that you make with lamb traditionally, garlic and onions, cumin, and if you want to be fancy, you could use saffron to flavor it as well. And I still don't know how. He wasn't classically trained as a chef at all, but he could take huge chunks of meat, vegetables, cut everything into perfect little dices, and fast too. He was incredible. And he just pulled me aside as he was kind of putting all the ingredients inside of the pot. And he said, Lenachka, he would call me Lenachka, his nickname for me. He said, one day when I'm not here, promise me that you'll remember this dish. Promise me you'll continue to make it. So I'm very fortunate that my dad has actually taken over recreating this special plof in his own way. And we would go out for New Year's now, out to the Poconos in the beautiful mountain air. He makes a huge, huge pot of the plof over a charcoal flame. And sometimes he uses filet mignon, which is not traditional, but sure is tasty. And I know that when we all sit down together at the table, I know that all 4 of my grandparents, both Tia de Romas and Baba Asa and Baba Fira, I know they're with us, smiling down, and I know that they're happy because we're together and holding the family through the things that matter most in life, right? I decided a long time ago that I was going to continue his tradition of cooking and recreate things in my own modern way. And what I didn't expect to happen was I had the pleasure and the sweet memory of creating his final meal. He was in the hospital, and we didn't know, obviously. And I recreated a chicken soup, but in a way that is not traditional. I took chicken thighs and I crisped them up, and then I added white wine, and it ended up creating a very similar golden broth. I brought it to him, and he ate it. And we talked, and we played chess, and we smiled. So if you could take one thing away from my story tonight, next time that you have the pleasure of sitting down to eat and to share a meal with somebody that you love, somebody that matters to you, slow down and use all of your senses to take in the sights and the sounds and the smells and the aromas and the textures. Make that memory so vivid, make that memory so deep, and lock it in your heart. So on the coldest of days, when you miss that person the most, you can pull that memory, and they're right there with you. 6.5 years ago, I had a little baby boy who I named Roman after both of my grandpas. And now, every holiday, the little Roman helps me cook all of my special meals. And with this, his spirit will live on. Thank you.
So, a little bit about Story Hour for those of you that might be curious. It doesn't take any professional or historical, practice with this. If you have a story to tell and you want to get involved, come and join us. This year's theme was, how do we keep the holidays alive all year long? And it's a very loose theme, so you basically have to just have one part of your story do that. But as we make calls to them, if you feel you can do this, please join us. We're all amateurs. We enjoy doing it. We always love new talent. The next person up is a person who was supposed to do this last year, but then couldn't. So she's back. We pulled her back in. And here she is, Stacy Dumont with Santa's Baby.
Thank you, friends. And I'm the newbie, so I have notes and props. So if there isn't an Italian American in this room, I would be surprised, but if you aren't, you might know someone who is. And so the Christmas Eve tradition of Italian Americans is the Feast of the Seven Fishes. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's characterized by very late night dining, and that goes into the wee hours of Christmas Day, and by fried and baked fish and seafood and a lot of Italian bread and wine and a salad that no one ever eats and a nice little green vegetable that's mandatory and obligatory but is kind of boiled and baked till you can't see it anymore, but it's totally enjoyable. But it's really all about the wine, the bread, the fish, and the conversation, and of course the cannoli. So my story starts at a Christmas Eve dinner many, many moons ago. A beautiful and very fashionable young Italian-American woman sat at a Christmas Eve table full of her extended family of aunts and uncles and cousins and friends. And so what happened at this table full of all these people wasn't supposed to happen until New Year's Eve. And so somewhere between the second and third course, around midnight, of scungili and linguine with crab sauce, this thing happened. And you can imagine the drama that ensued when this beautiful young woman went into labor. Yeah. So the theatrics that happened at that table were a combination of questions and advice and action. The advice being, lay on your back, upside down. It'll feel better. The baby will wait. Or get a cab, call the 5th precinct, get a police escort, all of which actually happened, because that night was a giant blizzard that blanketed the town. So on their way to the hospital with a police escort, this beautiful young woman arrived. And from what I understand, if you are a woman in labor on Christmas Eve, you are privy to a lot of special mirages that maybe other women in labor are not. For example, from what I understand, you would see reindeer like prancing across your blanket, or angels hovering around you, the North Star twinkling about. And if you ask me, I think it was the labor drugs at that time, and the fact that you gave birth without a companion in that decade. So this beautiful woman finally gave birth, and it's when Santa decided to round up his little children and lay and end up on the rooftop of the hospital, and there I was born. Yes, it was me. Did you know it was me? So this whole special birthday phenomenon actually started that night, because all the little girl babies had little red bows glued onto their head with some carcinogenic adhesive at that time. And from that point, I was considered very, very special, because just picture a Roman Catholic, Italian-American girl born on the same day as the most popular celebrity of the time, Jesus Christ, right? So it's very, very special, and I honor it, and I am one of the very fortunate middle-aged women who could lay on the couch all of Christmas Day and get waited on hand and foot by their family. And I know those who are feeding 17 people at the table are probably envious of my Christmas baby stature, but thank you, my family, for doing this. I'm sorry, but not really. So, being special and being a Christmas baby has contributed to many of my character traits and my character flaws. And I would like to name some of those for you tonight. So, I would say being born on Christmas has informed the person I am today. I don't know if you know this, it's not common knowledge, but I will share it with you, that all of the little Christmas babies about to be born are huddled into this giant bakery where Mary has Jesus' birthday party, and we share his birthday cake. If you didn't know that, now you know. So my first taste of sweets was as I was waiting to be born. And what Mary would do is crochet little onesies out of this red and white thread that I now see on pastry boxes throughout my life. So here we are with this cute little red and white onesies. We get powdered with sugar, placed on the sleigh, and ready to go. And that's where I blamed my insatiable sweet tooth on my first birthday party with Jesus. So now you know. Being born on Christmas has also created lots of anxiety in my life. For example, everyone really thinks that iconic sleigh ride with the reindeer silhouetted against the moon and the sparkling stars of the night are just so romanticized and so mysterious. But I will tell you, it was terrifying to ride on that sleigh. And I will give you an example. You would never imagine that, like, you picture your ride from, like, Brewster to LaGuardia in an Uber. You would say, oh, it was like a trip around the world. I was literally on a trip around the world with horrifying ascents and sudden dips and like teetering on rooftops and fire escapes. And suddenly, babies cried and screamed. And we all held onto each other and formed a human chain so that we wouldn't fall into the abyss of space off of this sleigh. Apparently, I was told I made a lot of noise, and I cried a lot. And so I got shoved into that black bag that everyone loves so much. Inside that bag were crying dolls with their little plastic index finger against their mouth saying, "Shut up! Shut up, Stacy, just be quiet." And so I attribute my claustrophobia, my fear of turbulence, and fast-flying, fast-riding vehicles, all to this sleigh ride. And so the next time you see Santa's sleigh, it really was a terrible, terrible thing. And number 3, of attribute of being born on Christmas. You're always being told how special you are. And I really think it's a wonderful thing to be born on Christmas. I wouldn't trade my birthday for any other birthday. But all I really wanted was like a summer barbecue on the Jersey Shore like my cousin had. I wanted birthday punches at school. I wanted a birthday party on my birthday. And so you think, well, you know, you're born on Christmas, it's very special, but I really would have liked all those other things. But being a little Italian-American girl, all I ever wanted in my life was to have a cool ethnic name. I grew up in a very cultural area of Italians and Dominicans and Puerto Ricans and Asians. And so I asked my parents, like, why wouldn't you name me like Anne-Marie, like my cousin, or Patricia, or Francesca? And like, there's a 1 in 365-day chance that you'd have a kid born on Christmas. Name me Noel, or Holly, or something. Their answer to me was, we wanted to name you something different, and we wanted you to be special. And so there goes the special theme again. I also give tribute to those parents who have Halloween babies, and they don't even have to worry about a thing. Their child thinks they're born, the world revolves around them. They get taken to strangers' house and given gifts. They get parties with costumes. So the next time you meet a Halloween baby, congratulate them. My 4th attribute of being a Christmas baby is I had my mother, rest in peace, was fiercely protective of my birthday. There were rules, and to avoid any uncomfortable situation with my mother during gift-giving time, you follow these rules. There were 3. 1, you give 2 gifts. There's no happy birthday, Merry Christmas, little Stacy, or big Stacy. There is a Christmas gift and a birthday gift. Wrapping paper. You do not wrap a Christmas baby's wrapping paper with Jingle Bell wrap. Okay. And the 3rd was you send in the mail 2 cards with separate stamps, 1 Christmas, 1 birthday. Not the Merry Birthday crapola that you think you're going to get away with. And the 5th special part of having a Christmas birthday is the birthday counter conversation. So if you have a special birthday and you're part of this holiday birthday phenomenon, like a Valentine birthday, a Halloween, a New Year's birthday, you would not maybe necessarily understand this part. You get to a counter, and no matter where it is, you can use it to your advantage. So you show your ID. You're at an enterprise, for example. You want to use it to your advantage. Hi, yes, I'm a Christmas baby. With your fingers crossed about getting an upgrade to a red Ferrari. But most of the time, it's like a conversation piece. So you have a line behind you. You're in the supermarket. You show ID for your beer. Oh, do you get chipped? Oh, no, not a chance. Or if you are applying for any kind of account. Oh, do you get double presents? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Perhaps you are at a triage in the ER. and they whisper to you, "Oh, a Christmas baby." And sometimes I just like to mess around and say, "Really? Christmas? Is that really Christmas?" And then finally, if you're meeting new people and you start talking birthdays and horoscopes, and somebody will say, "Oh, a Christmas and a Capricorn baby. You must be very special." And my answer is, yes. Yes, it is very, very special. Thank you.
First of all, thank you to everyone who has been donating. They're coming in, so thank you. Just going to kind of move that out of the way, see if I can remember most of what my story is about. So I was born in January, and as you just heard, I married a woman who came like a thunderbolt out of the sky on Christmas Day. Now, we all know those May, December relationships, you know, where you have that older man going out with a woman that other women think are too young for him. And then we have the cougar where the same woman think it's perfectly fine. But a December, especially a Christmas baby, and a January guy makes her the gift and me the bill. And that's a real problem that I have dealt with my entire life. If you could just imagine this, every time we're out together, people see her and it's always big. It's like, "Oh, Stacy!" And there's hugs and there's kisses. And every now and then you'll get like a man friend who parks his head on her shoulder with the eyes closed, and I'll be 2 or 3 feet behind. And he opens those eyes and it's, "How you doing? Good to see you. Just fine." But that's how it is. I mean, everybody loves the gift. Who likes the bill? But it's not really all that bad, because as we know, we just came out of COVID, there are sometimes you just don't want anybody to touch you. So sometimes, you know, we'll be just walking along and, you know, we'll see that person and they're coming at us, and for some reason I might think they might want to hug me, but, you know, so I get a little antsy, and the gift sees them and we're kind of looking at each other, what are we going to do now? And I do the only rational thing that a bill should do. I take the gift and I shove her 3 feet in front of me so that the incoming scud could grab her and hug her, and I'll stand back and I'll say, "How you doing?" But if I think that there is any reason that that person might want to interact with me, I'll take a step back. And if I'm really troubled about this person, I will give them the only life skill that my father ever taught me. And my father was a good man, but he really only gave me one life skill that persists to this day, and you can all use it. You give them the salute. You give somebody a salute, nobody's coming near you. And I have documented proof of this. When it was Dad and little Bobby walking down the street, my father hated everybody, without exception. And he would go down the street with me, "How you doing? Good to see you. Always a pleasure." Nobody came within 10 feet of my father. It didn't matter if he knew them. And then as I got a little older, I noticed something, you know, in his speech. He called everybody Rocky. "How you doing, Rocky? Rocky, hey, Rocky." It's like, Dad, his name isn't Rocky. He's like, "I don't want this guy touching me." Totally works. And every now and then, little Bobby would come in from the school. He'd be sitting on the couch. Door would slam. "How you doing, Rocky?" And I'm like, what? What's going on here? I don't know. So, you know, being with the gift, she can't do that. She has to take it. She's the face of our family. She's the goodness. And those are all things that are absolutely true. But sometimes I think to myself, am I holding her back by being alongside her? Like, do people avoid us because they see me? And it starts to think about it. And then I have like some real world experience. Like, we're in a supermarket and we're shopping, and I see that person out of the corner of my eye 6, 7 miles away, and I don't want to talk to them. And I know they see me because we're both kind of looking at each other out of the corner of our eyes. Neither one of us want to say hello. And I know if I give the full frontal, I got to go in and say hello. So that's not happening. All right. But then I turn and I look at the gift, and she is full front on looking at this person. So I'm like, oh my God. And all of a sudden the guy just, boom, he takes off down the spaghetti aisle. I'm like, that's a little too fast for pasta. We're going to figure this one out. So I grabbed the gift by the hand. I said, you're coming with me. We're going to find this guy. Now, you're in a supermarket. I got one hand on the gift. I got the other one on the cart. You can't control those carts with one hand. So I'm running over people's ankles. Excuse me, pardon me. I'm saluting them. I'm in and out. I can't find this guy. It's like, he's gone. It's like Kaiser Soze. I don't know if it's a little too early for a Kevin Spacey joke, but, you know. Anyway, so I start to think about this. Can a January guy really become a December guy, a gift? And I start to study this. And then I think December, all of those great things that happen in December. You have Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Diwali. You've even got a pagan day. And something I learned about very recently, Boxing Day. Boxing Day, I looked this up, and this is the day after Christmas. And what you're supposed to do is if you've received the goodness of that holiday, you're supposed to give something back to the needy the next day. So it sounds great. But what does it evolve into? Nothing but another clearance rack day where you go to the store, you buy that pair of jeans that doesn't fit you because it's going to fit next year. You hang it on the rack, and then 2 years later, with all the tags on, you give it to Goodwill. And that's how we give back. So I'm like, I don't know where that went off, whose fault it was, the bill, the gift people, but that one needs to be rethought. I was in business for myself for about 25 years, and that is being a small business guy, Tommy, Marianne, it's the hardest thing in the world. And 7 years ago, I just said, I can't do this anymore. Now, I wasn't really paying the bills. Things were tough for us. It was hard making ends meet. And I decide I'm going to be more like the gift. I'm going to let her in. I'm going to feel that goodness inside of me. So I'm going to do what she does. I'm going to listen to her. I'm going to take on her projects. Because if I could get a little bit of that inside me, I'll feel good. I know I will. And we've been together 38 years. Right? I think we have a good little thing going on once in a while. But 38 years, so I'm going to let it in. And so after letting it in, after that period, she discovers the power of we. And we means one thing. Bobby, get cracking on this. And so it was Christmas a few years ago, and she comes up to me. She's looking outside, and she's like, Bobby, wouldn't we like a little garden outside, somewhere to sit? Like, of course we would, honey. And shouldn't we have a little bit of a pond out there so we can like just sit there and have fun? I'm like, of course we should. Those are great ideas. And this is my first we project, so I am going to make this happen, and it's going to happen right. So I'm out there and I'm measuring things. The garden's over here, flowers over there, more flowers. Here's the pond. And then it's winter, so I really can't start digging. So I'm inside now. And I'm like that Close Encounters guy. I'm totally into this. I'm throwing buckets of dirt in the house. I'm building the Devil's Tower. Things are gonna happen. All of a sudden, my mashed potatoes are the pond. We got the peas, broccoli, the carrots. Things are happening all over the place. And now it's spring. I'm ready to go. Got my project. I start digging into the ground. There's rocks, there's boulders. There's 4 different ponds because I can't really decide where this pond is gonna go. And then she comes out. She looks around and she sees total chaos. It's like a construction site. She's like, Bobby, is this what we wanted to do? And I think to myself, it can't happen. I can't be the gift. Maybe it's just not in a January guy. So I think this over again, and I'm going to make it happen because that Close Encounters guy, he builds the Devil's Tower, and he's the guy that gets to go on the spaceship, and this pond is getting built. So again, I go inside. Here's the peas, here's the carrots, the broccoli, the gravy. I got an idea. It's spring. I start digging. There's mud all over my feet. I'm tracking it all over the house. I'm making a mess. She's totally annoyed at me, and then she comes out when it's finished, and she looks at it, and she says, Bobby, you done good. And I sat down and my body was riddled in pain from doing this. So I think about this. It's like, all right, this feels good. I can do this. I have a little bit of gift in me. And then the wheeze don't stop. Bobby, we should start a business. I'm like, honey, baby, I just got out of a business. It's torture. I can't do it anymore. No, Bobby, we're going to save the earth with this business. No plastics, only earth-friendly stuff, no packaging. People are going to love it. I'm like, baby, please, anything, just not a business. I beg you. No, Bobby, you're not listening. We're only going to employ veterans who need help and disabled people. I'm like, baby, it's such a great idea. And you can see where this is going. It's all goodness over there. And it's all death and taxes inside of me. I can't make this work. 22 years ago, she started a theater company. And for the first 8 years of that, I wanted absolutely nothing to do with it. People would walk into and out of my house, all kinds of people, crazy hair, crazy shoes, crazy costumes. How you doing? Good to see you. Nice, how are you? Didn't know a single one of them, couldn't care less. Yeah, how are you, Rocky? Beautiful. Just stay away from me. And then, into my life comes Christopher Gladysz. And the gift is gonna shove me into a rehearsal of one of my favorite musicals of all time, Bye Bye Birdie, and he gives me a part. And 14 years later, I'm standing here so that we can beg for money and keep the theater open. But wait, there's more to this story. You see, the gift is smart. She's smarter than me, and she's smarter than you, and you, and you. She's smarter than every one of us in this room. You see, because when she got me to do this, she figured out that if I could get all of you people here on a Tuesday night, that you would pay the bill and like it. She's outsmarted me, but all of that goodness, without me knowing, came inside. And I will tell you, you have the bill, you have the gift. They both go with each other. A gift gets a bill gets a gift. We are all lucky to be here tonight. We can pay the bill reasonably. There are a lot of people out there I know that have a lot of hard times paying the bills, and I truly appreciate that. But I also find out that doing what you love, being around people that you love, being happy at what you're doing is really the most important thing that you can do. And for 38 years, that gift has tried to penetrate me, and she actually did. And I know as soon as this is over, I'm going to walk over there, and she said, Bobby, have I got a project for you? And my back hurts already thinking about it. I'd like to thank you all. We have one last storyteller, Christopher Gladysz. I want to thank you for all the donations you've given. Everybody, of course, here, you can stay when it's done. And thank you, everybody out there who's been watching. Thank you for all the donations that have been coming in. They have been spectacular. And I will say, without further ado, my good friend, Mr. Christopher Gladysz.
I'll be home for Christmas. You can plan on me. Every time I hear that song, it makes me cry. Once upon a time, long ago in my youth, I had finished a summer of summer stock, and I was involved with someone at the end of the summer. My heart was broken. So in my infinite wisdom, I decided to move from my home in San Francisco to move in with my cousin in Providence, Rhode Island. And I planned I would take classes, acting classes at Trinity Rep. I knew I had to get a day job so that I could pay the rent, but I had no marketable skills. I mean, I was sleek and chic and magnifique with sex beyond endurance. And, well, I could sing and dance, but that wasn't going to pay the bills. So, while looking through the want ads in the Providence Journal, I saw that a group in Pawtucket was going to have auditions for a dinner theater. It was going to be a holiday show. Well, at that time, you could still say Christmas show. So it was going to be a Christmas show. Now, I thought, I'm going to go to this audition because I can meet new people, I can do a show, and I can maybe make some friends. And even though I was living with my cousin, I never saw her because she was working 2 jobs. So, and at the, this job is going to pay $25 per week once the show opened in December. So I go to the audition. I'm a ball of nervous energy. The audition was held at the at the Park Place Congregational Church in Pawtucket. You walk through what could politely be called a parking lot. It was a garbage-strewn alleyway. And you went past the dumpster down staircase into this multi-purpose room that smelled like bad milk. And in the corner was this little stage about the size of a dining room table with all these surrounded by flame retardant curtains. So the gal who auditioned before me sang a Cambodian war chant. Intriguing choice. I sang my old standby, Can You Use Any Money Today, from Call Me Madam, a song guaranteed to cause confusion in anyone who auditioned for it. Well, I got cast, which I was thrilled about, not realizing that because I was a man, the second I walked through the door to audition for the musical review, I was going to be cast. So at the first rehearsal, I sat next to Jane. She was the Cambodian war chant gal. She was also cast. She was very quiet. But while this whole first rehearsal is happening, we're keep making eye contact with each other in this, what fresh fuckery have we ended up in kind of way. So, see, this Christmas show at this dinner theater was going to consist of 3 acts. Because at dinner theater in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, the audience needed time to imbibe copious amounts of alcohol during the 2 intermissions. So, the production itself, well, the first act was going to be a review of Broadway show tunes. The second act was going to be popular standards written by George Gershwin, Cole Porter, and Duke Ellington. Because why not? And the third act was going to be a holiday seasonal favorites. Yes, Christmas songs. The director, Wayne, who was also cobbling this show together, and from the first rehearsal, it was clear that Wayne was in over his head. Wayne was going to be the lead singer and sing most of the solos in the show. Wayne was tall and skinny with a big nose, and he was kind of a goober, but he was apparently the darling of the effervescent Pawtucket community theater world, and, someone has to be. Pawtucket's a small town. So, to round out the troupe, the cast included, besides Jane and myself, a rather Fellini-esque troupe of talent. There was Kathy. She was Wayne's beautician. She was a blousy gal with a big voice who occasionally hit the notes as written, and who had never done a show before. She was madly in love with Wayne. There was Deirdre. She was Armenian and fashioned herself to be an opera singer. Now, she took voice lessons with Wayne. Deirdre had no facial expressions, but she was also wildly in love with Wayne. Then there was Donna number 1. Donna number 1 was from Tiverton, and she thought she was the next Sandy Duncan. She had no idea who Wayne was when she auditioned. And then there was Donna number 2, who had long hair in need of a hot oil treatment, and she giggled a lot. I think she was a lesbian. Then there was Chuck. Chuck was a baker by day, and he was a hoot and a holler and a terrific singer. And then there was Tony. Tony was a Federal Hill Italian and a tenor. He wore high-waisted stonewashed jeans. He was fashion forward. So last but not least was Lila. She was the musical director. Lila was not a people person. So Jane, she was a beautiful soprano and understood how to sell a song. She'd also recently done summer stock in Vermont, where she'd had her heart broken. And she had just moved home to live with her mother and father. So we bonded immediately. And she would drive me to rehearsals because I didn't have a car. Jane and I were given this insane mashup of the tunes, I Let a Song Go Out of My Heart, and I Don't Get Around Much Anymore. Now, this provided Jane and I with endless hours of heated discussion on how we were going to make this medley work. Now, because of that duet, I still wake up screaming in the middle of the night. So anyway, as rehearsals progressed, Wayne discovered that I had dancing training. So he asked if I could choreograph the opening number to a chorus line, because that's how he wanted to start the show. Now, for reasons lost to history, I actually knew the original choreography to the opening number from a chorus line. So here I am in the basement of the Park Place Congregational Church on this dining room tableside stage, trying to teach a bunch of non-dancers the opening number. I did what I could. Although I have to say that Donna number 1 was very vivacious. And Wayne also had me choreograph the number Don't Tell Mama from Cabaret. So I'm showing Jane, Kathy, Deirdre, Donna, and Donna the dance steps, which involved the use of a bentwood chair. I said to them, I want you to do it exactly this way every night. So I took the bentwood chair, I sat down in it, flung my leg up and over it, and I accidentally farted. I was mortified. The ladies were stunned. We stared at each other for a few minutes. And then blousy Kathy said, I don't think I can cut the cheese on cue every night. Please have snow and mistletoe. Wayne, the director and star of our show, had also recently completed a season of summer stock in Maine, where he had had his heart broken. So anyway, Wayne begins calling me after rehearsal at night, which then segued into Wayne driving me home from rehearsal at night, to Wayne taking me to his dank basement apartment in his parents' house. Well, I had very low standards. And, the way my self-esteem was, it worked out fine. So, because I still didn't have a day job, and the income from the Christmas show wouldn't be happening until December, I needed to come up with some cash. Well, Wayne suggested that I assist him in his house cleaning business. We would clean people's houses, and then, at Wayne's insistence, we would get frisky in the people's bedroom. Well, they weren't home, And I'm not proud of it, but I had the cash to pay my rent. So anyway, we continued to rehearse the Christmas show, which seemed like 300 songs in it. And as the tech rehearsal and opening night were getting closer and closer, I can think it was the $25 a week, okay? Yes. And presents round the tree. One day in the Providence Journal, I saw that another theater company was going to be doing the musical Pippin. So, and Silent Lila was going to be the musical director. So Wayne and I go down to the audition. He decides he's going to play the role of Pippin, and I'm just glad to be doing another show. Well, I'm called back for the role of Pippin. Wayne is not called back at all. To make things worse, I get the role of Pippin. Well, in the Rhode Island theatrical milieu, I was fresh meat. So anyway, the late night phone calls in the Tris and his parents' basements came to an abrupt halt, along with the work cleaning the houses. I missed the cash. So anyway, but in the meantime, I had miraculously gotten a job in the credit department at in a bank. I sat next to this redhead named Heather, whose husband owned an archery range. That's not pertinent to the story. Christmas Eve will find me. So anyway, it's around this time that the reality hit me that I was committed to doing a Christmas show that ran every weekend in December into January. I had just started a new job, plus I was going to have rehearsals for Pippin. There was no way that I was going to be able to go home to San Francisco for Christmas. Jane had gotten herself an office job located about a block away from the bank that I was in. So we saw each other practically every day for lunch. And we proceeded to get closer and closer because we had so much in common. I mean, we were theater nerds. And on non-rehearsal nights, we'd go to the movies, or we'd go to the shopping mall, or we'd go back to her house. I'd play piano, she'd sing. I learned how to play a Cambodian war chants. Now, even though I was living with my cousin, I never saw her because she had two jobs. One of her jobs was as a waitress at this Chinese food restaurant called the Mon Coup. Now, in French, I think Mon Coup means my coup. Anyway, Jane and I would occasionally go there for the poo-poo platter. So it's finally time for our Christmas show for rehearsals to move into from the basement of the Park Place Congregational Church to the dinner theater, which was located on the second floor of the old Elks Club in downtown Pawtucket. It's really swank. No, it really was. The theater part of the space was large and spacious enough that they could have a bunch of tables and chairs, and along one side was this really large bar. And then, there was the stage was decorated relatively nicely with some holiday decor. And then in the back, there was this small closet for the 9 of us to get changed in. Well, 8, because Wayne didn't want to get changed. Oh, fuck. Well, actually, there was just room for 8 because Wayne didn't want to get changed in the same room that I was in. It wasn't my fault. Lila liked me. Anyway. So, and also Kathy and Deirdre are there, and they both had these delusions that they were going to become the next Mrs. Wayne. Surprise! Now, the rest of the dinner theater staff had never seen a rehearsal of ours in the basement of the Park Place Congregational Church. So they didn't realize that our 3-act Christmas Tune Fest was going to have enough material in the evening that went about 4 hours without the 2 booze-infused intermissions. So our Sunday afternoon tech rehearsal lasted into the wee hours of the morning. Once the production staff realized that we had a War and Peace style show in their midst, they knew they had to step in and do something about trimming down the show. So Ernie, the producer, who had breath that could knock a buzzard off an outhouse at 50 paces, he was the executioner who guillotined our show. We walked into rehearsal on Monday night. Opening night was Wednesday. And Ernie handed out the new list with the new song order. The Christmas show was cut in half. Out went the opening number from Chorus Line, out went the cabaret Bentwood chairs, and many people lost solos that they'd been rehearsing for 3 months. So once the tears were dried and the breathing returned to normal, Ernie set us all down in a row and proceeded to tell us what was wrong with our performances on stage. Certainly the way to endear yourself to a cast. Ernie began, "Kathy, you're blousy and loud and barely hit the notes. Deirdre, this is Pawtucket for fuck's sake. No one wants to hear an opera singer, and use some facial expressions if you can." Well, I was sitting in the last chair when Ernie got to me. He said, "Chris, you're just too comfortable on stage." Well, I'm really not sure what he said after that, because all I could think of was, isn't that the point? Anyway, our condensed version of Wayne's Christmas show opened to rave reviews, and everyone loved us. The audience thought we were terrific, and they really enjoyed the 2 intermissions, guzzling the hooch. And even though we're performing, and I was glad to be so positively reviewed, I was really sad that I wasn't going to be able to go home to San Francisco for Christmas. Christmas Eve will find me where the love light gleams. So, I had to call my mother and tell her that I would not be coming home for Christmas. That went about as well as you can imagine. She ended the call by saying that at least I could spend Christmas Day with my cousin. I had to remind her that my cousin would be working a double shift at the Mon. Luckily for me, Jane and her family stepped up and asked me to join them for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Jane's lovely family consisted of her Irish father, Jim, her Portuguese mother, Viv, and her sister, Nancy, who everyone called Nanny Goat. So, true story, Nancy could not sing melody. She could only sing harmony. Fascinating. Pardon the sidebar. Well, anyway, Christmas Eve at Jane's house was full of loaves and fishes and family, and Jane's extended family all assumed that Jane and I were boyfriend and girlfriend, and we didn't try to dissuade them. We were eating and drinking and having a great time. I remember playing piano for hours while Jane and Nancy and various cousins sang Christmas tunes. And then on Christmas Day, Jane's family continued to treat me as though I were one of the family. There were Christmas carols playing on the hi-fi in the background all day long, and just before dinner, the song "I'll Be Home for Christmas" came on. And Jane, Nancy, and I looked at each other and just burst into tears. Because, well, it was on multi-level, because Jane and Nancy were upset that I could not be home with my family for Christmas. I was upset that I could not be home in San Francisco with my family for Christmas. But we were also really happy because Jane and her family it had me in their house and treated me as though I was one of their family. So that's why to this day, when I hear the song, "I'll Be Home for Christmas," you'll see me sobbing. Or maybe just running out of the room so you can't see me sob. I'll be home for Christmas, if only in my dreams. Thank you, Jane.
You may have noticed that something that nobody on the camera can see is that I don't have any shoes on, so nobody can hear my Thank you, Christopher. I want to thank all of you for coming out to play with us, so thank you. Thank everybody out there for the great donations and the claps. That concludes our show. Please stay, eat, and drink. Tommy, Marianne, a big round of applause for them. And there are 2 people I didn't thank in the very beginning who always keep me calm when I do this. Chris Gillespie always helps set up. Thank you. And I will give you the person who nothing technical, like most technical people, they're frazzled, they can't think. When that happens, Mario Riccobone orders another bowl of something. The bowls just kept coming in, but thank you for all your help. Have a great night. Please stay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.